In many competitions, including the NCAA March Madness tournament that we will be studying, teams are ranked and then placed into brackets, following the rules outlined in your handouts. To review those rules, rankings, which are also called seedings, are used to group the teams into certain positions in the brackets. So the brackets that we have up here, which are set up for a 14 tournament, single elimination. The matching of the teams has to follow this basic rule. If we assume that the higher seeded team is going to win every game, then the number one seed will always face the worst team still remaining. The number two seed will face the second worst team remaining, and so on. And it's very important that you understand that this rule is going to persist through the entire tournament. So we'll start with a very basic situation. We have 4 teams that are all set up and they've already been ranked. We're ready to put them in the brackets. We know from the rules below that the pairing for the first round would have to be 1 playing the 4, and that would leave then the 2 to play the 3. And if we wanted to follow this through, we could see that if the high seed wins as expected, then after the first round, 1 and 2 would come through to meet in the championship. It's desirable to have the best 2 teams not meeting until the championship, and you would have 1 winning the tournament. This is a pretty easy scenario because all we had to do is recognize that the 1 had to play the worst, the number 4, and that the second best team, the number 2, had to play the second worst, which in this case was team number 3. But let's go ahead now and look at a more complicated scenario where we have 8 teams. They've already been seeded based on how they performed during the regular season, based on the difficulty of their schedule, and we have to put them in the brackets. And we have to follow the same rules as we followed before, and we have to make sure that we follow those rules for every round of the tournament. So let's see how it looks. Most students have no problem figuring out that the 1 seed would have to play the 8 seed, and at this point they start thinking that this is the easiest thing in the world, and that the 2 seed would obviously have to play the 7 seed. And it is true that the 2 seed would have to play the 7 seed, but the game does not go in that position. Why? Well, if you look carefully at this situation, you can see that if the high team wins as expected, then after the first round, 1 would come through here, and then 2 would come through here. What's the problem? Well, the problem is that the 2 best teams that are still left in the tournament, the 1 and the 2 seed, are meeting up in the second round, and they shouldn't meet up until the championship. So something didn't go right here. I'm going to go ahead and reset all these. Okay, let's see if we can get this right. Well, if 1 is not supposed to meet 2 until the championship, then maybe I should take that 2-7 pairing and put it down on the opposite side of the bracket here, so that these guys, the 1 and the 2, couldn't meet up until the championship round. Okay, then I have to ask myself the question, after the first round of the tournament, what's the worst team that's still going to be left? Well, it's single elimination, so teams 5 through 8 would go home. The worst team that's still left in the tournament would be the 4. And so that's who I would want to have 1 matching up with in the next round of the tournament. So if I go ahead and put 4 here, who would they be paired up with? I think they'd have to be paired up with 5. So look what happens. Now, after the first round, 1 comes through, 4 comes through, so the best team in the tournament is playing the worst team in the tournament. And let's go ahead and complete the picture for the other games as well. Let's put the 3 here and the 6 here. And I'll quickly follow this through so that you can see how the rule is followed for the rest of the tournament. Everything looks good in that round. 1's playing the 4, 2's playing the 3. You'd expect 1 to win that game. And again, we're assuming the high seed wins throughout. Of course, in the real tournament, there's sometimes upsets. But this is good because now we have the number 1 seed playing the number 2 seed in the championship. And maybe 1 seed would come through like that. So it's going to be your responsibility to figure out what's going to happen in a situation where there are 16 teams ranked 1 through 16, and you have to put them in the appropriate positions. Let me know if you have any questions, but make sure that you follow the rules for each round of the tournament. You'll also see some nice patterns emerging if you're paying attention to the details. Hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.